Hello humans, Master Dinnerflex here, and today I'll be discussing a thing I discovered with the soon-to-be-released vampires. Now, in this set, we all know the chase cards are going to be the Brandish or Sky Strikers, whatever they decide to call them. But then I was thinking, well, of course the second best deck is going to be for hire, because it has this really interesting resource game. But then I played both of them. Like, I also tried vampires. And then I noticed something. Vampires have this. At first, what I thought was just a nostalgia deck turned out to be very impressive. Like, there were combos that were leading me with counter traps, trap searches, omegas. And it was like, holy crap, what is going on? This is just vampires. And then I did more editing with the deck. By the way, this isn't a real list. This is just something I threw together to show you what I'm talking about. Something I noticed is that vampires, to me, played a lot like Ritual Beast. And the reason I say that is because they do this wombo combo that grabs them a bunch of stun, and then they do the same thing again next turn, similar to what Ritual Beast does. It's not as extensive as Ritual Beast, but it's very similar to it. Now, so let me explain your main combo core. Is Familiar and Brood. The more powerful one is actually Familiar, because the monsters themselves get you to the spells and traps. To Brood, but Brood only itself gets you to the spells and traps. So it's like, you'd rather find a way to start with Familiar and then end up to Brood, rather than end with Brood, because a lot of times you can't keep your engine going if you do that. So Familiar, to me, seems like the more powerful one to start with. And if you end up special summoning both, you can end with this situation where you search Shadow and Territory, and then that one gets you to more vampires, which gets you to more plays. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. These vampires, they kind of have like this engine going on that keeps cycling themselves. And then I was thinking, well, the problem is they don't have like a bunch of other like cards. Like, I was at like 28 monsters, and I was like, the issue I'm noticing is they don't really have the defense to support this combo. So I cut down a lot of the zombies. I went down to 2 Mizuki. By the way, you shouldn't play 1 Mizuki. That's wrong. This is just what I wanted to show you can do. I cut it down to 2 Mizukis, only 4 Shiranuis, the 3 Solitaire, and the 1, crap, can't remember its name, Spirit Master, and 2 Uni zombies and a Gozuki. And I was like, okay, this is way better. And I cut down, like, all the excessive vampires. Like, I cut Duke entirely because Scarlet is better to see than Duke. And I started cutting the vampires down to where it was more of an engine rather than a full 30 monster deck. And then I put defense such as Swallow Slash, and I put in Awake, because one of the things I noticed is it burns out. Like, the deck can burn out if you don't keep seeing Familiars. So I put this in, and it's searchable off Brood, so it does make Brood like an engine card rather than an engine ender. Like, the last part of the combo, it also makes it to the next part of the combo. And I was like, and then it started improving, and I'm like, wow. And it got to the point where I was just starting to beat... I went from being, like, casual decks to, like, more serious things. Like, a few Mech Knights Invoked I beat. Haven't beat True Draco yet, but I did beat Pen Magicians. But, like, True Draco itself is a really hard matchup for any deck. And then I, like, also I was in and out of Lilith. And I was like, man, this is really interesting. I love the fact that this deck just... it cycles through itself, and then just does it again, and again, and again. Just like the classic zombies, where the first turn play isn't overwhelming, but if you're at turn 3, you have won because you are, like, plus stupid on your opponent. And that's what happens with this deck. Only this time, it's not just making Omega and hope you Omega the card out of their hand. It's actually searching Infernity Barriers or fucking Rescue Rabbits in trap form. And like with Lilith, you can get either of these, and it's like, it's really good. Compulse, again, this is a joke deck. Don't take this one seriously. But I started messing around with it, and it's like, you're searching all this stun. And I came to the realization that not only was this better than Fur Hire, like, when both my testing I did, Vampire turned out to be better than Fur Hire, but it's actually just pretty good. Like I said, I think a lot of people, me included, just thought this would be nostalgia support. But it turns out these vampires have some really insane combos. They sent the new Lair of Darkness I tested with them, and they synergize pretty freaking well with those because Diablos is nuts. They have all these cards, and they have all these combos, and they have all these searching abilities. And I just came to the realizations, vampires are okay. They're actually fairly decent. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say in this video. A few things I noticed is Vampire Desire, the ability to change levels is actually super, super powerful. Because it allows you to make XCs and synchros you wouldn't normally make. One of the phases I was testing, I tested an Arclight and 2 Vindred Chimera and Origin, because you could search the Origin and just send Chimera with like Uni Zombie or Gozuki. And like you could just ritual summon a Stardust Dragon. And that was really cool, but again, like you're playing 2 Garnets for an extra deck option rather than an extra deck staple. So I didn't stick with that. I also tried Crimson, wasn't a big fan of it. It's kind of one of those cards that, sure, it protects from Regeki, but you actually, you're searching counter traps, so that doesn't really do much. And you protect your stuff by battle with Fraulein better than you do with Crimson. So Crimson just felt like he didn't offer anything outside of just an extra name, and I wasn't a big fan of that. But this card is stupid. This is all the best parts of Battle Fader and Gores in one card. And it's searchable through any means necessary. And it's just like, this card is absurd. It's amazing. I literally just can't say anything else about it. This is one of the best cards. Like, hand traps are all about, like, stunning a certain action. But this one's very different because it never lets you die. Like, you don't even need to play this in vampires or even zombies. You can just Battle Fader this, and it's awesome. So that's really cool. Book Life is also an option, but it's like a worse Monster Reborn, and sometimes you don't even want to play Monster Reborn, so it's just like, nah. And so a lot of people don't like the Solemns in here because you're already paying so much life, and I gotta say, are you joking? Have you not read like 6 of their cards? Well, 2 of their cards, all of them with the same effect. You gain your life back in this deck. And, like, you gain your life back by doing battle damage, and if you're solemning monsters, of course you can do battle damage. What kind of joke is that? So, I don't know. And this one's also really interesting, because when you negate and destroy a monster, you gain the life point back. So that's, like, awesome. Gain the life point of, like, the monster you destroyed, so that's really cool. So yeah, that's about it. This is pretty much all I wanted to say about the deck. If you guys want to try some combos with this deck, this isn't a real version of the deck. There's so many things I'm just testing right now, and I'm trying to find like a real engine to this deck, find out what are the best cards for this deck, and I just haven't come up with a conclusion, which is why it looks like a mess. But yeah, if you guys want to try this deck, and try to learn all its interactions and all its combos, let me know, because I'm very interested to see how far the community can take this deck, because it's very impressive. It may not be very impressive, but I'm very impressed with what it is, because it's more than just nostalgia support, which I thought it was going to be. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and remember, Master Dinnerflax will take your soul.